get downloading the One Football app. It is free. The link is in the description for that. All the latest news, your transfers, your gossip, stats with Newcastle United. Every football fan needs it.
Could I bring the Prime Minister back to reality?
This is a story all about how my life got turned upside down, and I want to take a minute, just sit right there, and I will sit in David Cameron's chair.
Yes, you would never think that we would be talking about Brexit on Newcastle Fans TV, but it is actually a serious matter which will affect transfers coming in and out of the club. We're going to be looking around Watford, Arsenal and Spurs whilst I was down in London a couple of weeks back, but also we're going to take a look at the Newcastle United squad who we would not be able to sign if we had left the EU. This article, which players need a work permit right now, which will go out and affect every single European player as well as non-EU players. So at the moment, if you're a footballer outside the EU, you must obtain a work permit to play in English football clubs. That will happen across every European player, whether you're Spanish, French and so on, once we leave the EU. At the moment, you can get permit pretty easily if you become an international footballer. So if you've played 75% of your country's senior international matches over the past 2 years, you'll be able to qualify in the EU. However, that rule does change depending on your nation. So for example, if you play for a top 10 ranked FIFA nation, you'll only need to play 30% and above. If you're ranked between 11th and 20th, it's 45% and above, and so on and so on. You can see the graphic. However, if you are under the age of 21 at the time of the application, this period is reduced just to 1 year instead of the 2 years, making it easier for a younger player to come in. But this will affect all European players, as I've touched upon. However, if this player has a special criteria, so maybe this player isn't an international, maybe he plays in La Liga and has just banged in 20 goals and never been capped for Spain, the FA can look at that and they can help the player come over. So that it can be done without them being an international, but they have to be shown a massive market value to be brought into the UK, and if they consider it to be bringing in an asset.
And what about Watford? Here we are at Vicarage Road, and Watford only have 6 English players amongst their squad. They are Troy Deeney the captain, Ben Foster the goalkeeper, Will Hughes the midfielder, Tom Cleverley the midfielder, and also Andre Gray who plays up top. And how many of them are homegrown? How many of the grew up in the Watford Academy? The answer would be 0. So there's a problem itself, you know, the lack of English players amongst the whole of the Premier League, not just the big boys in London. You know, you come just to the outskirts of London here, and even here, you know, they change the manager quite frequently. They've got foreign owners as well, maybe that's a thing. EU, it could be a good thing that they've been forced to bring in tougher regulations for players. Maybe it'll improve the Premier League, maybe it'll also help the youth development of English football coming through a lot more as well.
So tighter regulations coming into effect once Theresa May gets us out of the EU. Surely that's going to help though the English talent coming through. There's under 33% of English talent Gareth Southgate has to choose from in the Premier League. So much so that English talent is now moving abroad to play their football.
So when you think of Arsenal, you can't really think of anyone off the top of your head who was a regular in that starting lineup. The nearest you would probably say is Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and then the rest of the other 3 who are on this list, Rob Holden, Carl Jenkinson and Danny Welbeck, are rotated / wing, maybe fringe players. However, the biggest English talent is currently playing in the Bundesliga, which is Reece Nelson. You've also got Callum Chambers out on loan at Fulham. But I think Arsenal will be heavily impacted. They don't have many English players. They haven't over the years. So this may be a good chance now with blood youth. You know, we've talked about Nelson just there. He could be one of them. Is it going to hit Arsenal? I think so. And I think it's also a good thing for Arsenal.
So it will make you play more English players, which is also a good thing. And why is that a good thing? Because you're going to get rid of average players who are from abroad who will no longer be eligible. This is the Newcastle United squad, courtesy of Wikipedia. We're going to take a look at which foreign players will be eligible and not eligible to sign under the Brexit So we've left Brexit now, and you're going to look at these players, who can sign and who can't. Let's begin. Sung-Yueng would be eligible to sign because he's a regular for his national side. So is Fabian Schär. They both played an amount, the criteria to fit that. So Solomon Rondon, he would get it, but Mo Diame would not be able to sign if Brexit was here right now. So he hasn't competed for Senegal, and he wasn't even a regular for them, and he's recently retired. Martin Dubravka would, he's a regular. Yoshinori Mutu would fail that criteria. His nation isn't one of the most powerful in the FIFA rankings, and he's not a regular. He's in some squads, but not all of them. So Yoshinori Mutu would not be able to sign. Kennedy wouldn't. Ayoze Perez is on great form at the moment. He cannot sign if Brexit was here right now. Federico Fernandez, despite him being a former Argentinian regular, he hasn't featured for his national side for a long time. He wouldn't be able to. Neither would Javier Manquillo. Neither would Florian Lejeune. Neither would Hoslu. However, DeAndre Yedlin would. He's a regular for the US. They're in the top 50. And he's actually just made an appearance as a captain. Antonio Baraka wouldn't. Miguel Almiron should. The reason being should is because he has missed a couple of games for Paraguay. However, he could also feature as one of the special criteria I was talking about early on in the video, where he's a massive fee that the club are bringing in. He's a huge asset. He's got massive potential for the Premier League. So if he wasn't a regular for Paraguay, despite him being him now, the FA could look at his special circumstance and grant a work permit. Christian Atsu would also easily get a work permit as well. However, if you take a look at the couple of players who are out on loan, a couple of senior players, Ashraf Lazar would not be able to sign for Newcastle under this new law because we're leaving the EU, and the same as Henri Saivet. He would not be eligible to qualify to bring in for a work permit. So it's interesting that practically half of Newcastle's squad, if we had left Brexit, and this was Brexit now, wouldn't be able to sign.
So we are now outside of Spurs' brand new ground. It's absolutely massive. I can't get it in the camera. Try to walk around the ground as well, but you'll see a few the still shots going around as well. But you know, Brexit, English players, don't think this club will be effective as most. I'm not going to name all the English players because there's loads that are in this Spurs side. And yes, Pochettino will obviously want money, of course he does. However, you know, they built this magnificent stadium. It's probably been a long time coming. Champions League football and so on, they need it to continue developing the squad, because let's face it, they do need some new bodies in if they do want to go and challenge next year. But like I say, they're already set up, I feel. So when it comes to Spurs, you automatically think of all the English talent. You think of all the England internationals already. You think of Kyle Walker, who moved to Manchester City. You think of Kieran Trippier, Eric Dyer, Harry Kane, possibly Harry Winks is another one. You know, they do produce, and they've got a lot of under 21s, under 23s coming through as well. So I don't think Spurs will be massively effective. They've already produced young talent. You know, you need the other clubs like Arsenal to get English talent coming through. You need the other, even the northern clubs, the two Manchester clubs need, in particular Man City. I know they've got Phil Foden, but they need a lot more English talent coming through. Interesting how Brexit will play out, won't it?
Whether you voted to leave, whether you voted to stay, or maybe you're not even bothered, maybe you didn't even vote at all, what we can agree on is that it's going to change the way that we sign players, whether you think it weakens the Premier League or it promotes English talent. The one thing that we can all agree on is we love our beautiful game.
Westminster. I was young, firm, asked, thanked the local school for the best working class. I grew up the daughter of a local vicar. I was fighting drinking inside the school. The Conservative Party invited me to campaign. Yes, I couldn't stop drinking champagne. Well, my life is just good. Period. I flew to the House of Commons, the 7-8. Told David I got him out through the back door later. I've come. I have done this. I'm Theresa May, and I think I'm the best Prime Minister of the UK. Thank you.